see how to make a multimedia application in Python that works on Mac, Linux and Windows on the desktop. Sounds crazy, but if you want to see that happen, then hit that subscribe button and stick with me as we go on the journey. I've got a bit of a problem. Anyone that knows me is going to say, yeah, Mark definitely has a problem. But it's to do with a radio show that I produce every week called Away Natter. You might have heard of it before, that's not important to this exercise, but the important bit is that this radio show is something that I'm producing. And to do it, we use a lot of equipment, like you see a microphone here, we use a mixer, and you'd expect something like a record player to play the music on. How much? And we need a better option than that, in all honesty. And singing songs myself, that's off the cards. Hungry like the wolf. Thankfully, there is a better solution, and it's called computers. Now, the usual solution is something called a playout system, which you'll have never heard of that term before, but it's just like a really fancy copy of Windows Media Player. It's got all the songs and jingles and things that you need to produce a radio show all lined up. You hit the go button, it pops out on the wireless. Nice and simple. And I've got one here that works quite well. It's called Play It Live. It's fantastic. It comes at a very reasonable price. The problem is it runs on Windows. Now, that's not usually a problem, but I run my stuff on an old Mac, which is fantastic, except it's now complaining that I'm not going to have support for Windows 11, thanks to not having a TPM2 compatible chip, or certainly not in a way that Windows is happy with. So I'm left with this problem of I've got working hardware that I can run Mac or Windows or whatever I like on it, but the software won't run. So yeah, there's not many other options out there. I've had a look, there's no great options that run on macOS, unfortunately. I've had a look at Linux, and I've done Rivendell in the past, and the word I'd use for it is experience. It's a fantastic bit of software, but it's a lot. It's not quite what we're looking for. So I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do our own thing. I want to bring you on the journey with me as well. So I'll be helping write the software. You can get involved as well, and I want you to be learning along as we do this, and maybe even contribute bits as well. I know that's asking a lot, but you know, I'm going to ask for it. But before we even get started, we need a plan, don't we? We can't just start and go, yeah, we'll figure it out along the way. We need a plan, which means it's time for a whiteboard. So let's dig in a bit more to what a playout system has to achieve. So we have to take media, which in our case is audio files. You know, if we were a television station, it'd be videos and live feeds and things like that. But with radio, we only need to be able to play music, jingles, adverts, that kind of stuff, pre-recorded voice inserts. So audio files is what it comes down to. We need to have some sort of library of them. So we need to be able to search for them, figure out, okay, here's where all the Duran Duran hits are. Here's where all the Dexys Midnight Runners hits are. Here's where all the Christmas jingles are. You know, the ability to find all those things. So you need a bit of metadata attached. So you'll need some sort of storage and capability for that. So you've got to store the files, you've got to store all the important information that goes along with them. And another input that you'll have into your system is general purpose IO or MIDI. So some way to be able to say, do an action. From the physical world feeding into the computer world going, by the way, you should be doing something right now. And quite often we use that to be able to start songs. You know, I hit a big green button on my mixer here and suddenly songs start playing. So to be able to cope with that, we need to be able to interface with this stuff. So you'll have all this media, you'll have some sort of list. So you'll be going, okay, we'll do that, then that, then that, then that. So we'll do song A, song B, song C. And then you have to pump a bunch of outputs out of it. So you'll have sound cards, and usually you go for multiple of them, which allows you to have things faded to different levels. So you might have, you know, a bed that you've dragged down that's faded at a certain level, and then you start the next song as a hard start. You want it to start at full volume. You don't want to be rushing to shove that fader up. So you need to be able to support multiple sound cards. That actually makes things a little tricky, because when you start needing to support multiple sound cards, a lot of options you normally go to for multimedia disappear out. So a great example of that would be the web audio framework. Yes, it can do multiple sound outputs, but it's rather complicated and you have to be able to maintain a lot of state to make things happen there. So that, you know, it kind of writes that off as an option. And, you know, when I'm looking at frameworks for Python, so one of the GUI frameworks that I'm quite familiar with is Kivy, which has an audio option in it, but it doesn't have the option to say, send this sound here and send that sound there instead. You'd have to fish that out to yet another library. So that focuses our options down a bit as well. And if we're looking at, you know, other outputs you'll get from the system, so you get the audio output, that's the key one. You know, the first time I ever did this in 2006, when it was doing this for my advanced higher school thing in VB6. So we're not doing it in VB6, thankfully. That was the only output it had. It just played audio. That's all it did. But it turns out you need some metadata. So you need to be able to tell other systems, oh, by the way, I'm playing this song now, because that'll then appear on your radio, or it'll appear on your web stream, or it'll appear in your mobile app. So you need to be able to feed that information from your computer system into other systems. So we need some way of pumping that out, and usually it's some sort of plain text. And then we had inputs from, you press a button and the mixer, things happen. We want outputs going the other way. So you might have a tally light that says, yes, I am playing something on that channel now, and the channel will light up. Or, yeah, you know what, I understand that you've got this on pre-fade, so I'm not going to count it as it's playing out, because you're just checking the audio before it happens. So I won't accidentally update now playing information. So there's a bit of a two-way feed going on with the I/O side of things. So, you know, that's the core of the software side. Let's dig into the requirements we might have beyond that. So that's what a playout system is. There are going to be some requirements beyond that. So a big one for this project, and it's going to make it much simpler, is we have to play the audio locally. So for it to be a live show, so we produce it every week, goes out on a bunch of radio stations, the audio has to be available here in the studio with me. Now that really whittles technical options down quite a bit. We need to support multiple sound devices. Again, that whittles options down quite a bit. We need to be able to store the audio, so they're referred to as carts in the industry, and that goes back to NAB carts, so very old-fashioned bits of tape in plastic containers. Carts need to be able to be stored somewhere, and the metadata to go along with them, because you need to be able to search for them, you need to be able to record that you've played them for copyright returns or things like that. Now, the way I've done it in the past, and the way, you know, things like Playout 1 and Play It Live and things like that, all these other options you've got out in the world, they often store that locally. So they'll have a local SQL server of some sort, and they'll have a local file store. And that's fantastic, that's brilliant. But it's the 2020s. I don't want to be managing servers or hosting any of that stuff. Let's put that in the cloud. Let's go take advantage of the fact S3 is a thing. And, you know, we can get managed SQL server for cheapest chips nowadays. So why do it the hard way ourselves? So let's kill that off and let's do it as proper cloudy thing. When we're talking about interfacing with hardware, the specific example I need to make this work with is the Rodecaster Pro 2, which it presents as a generic MIDI device. So if we can make it work for the Rodecaster, it's going to work for any MIDI device. So yes, you'll be able to control this playout system from a Casio keyboard if you really want. It would be weird, it would be strange, but you could do it. And the final one is, I want to be able to run this potentially on Mac or on Windows or even Linux in the future. I want a cross-platform GUI option, and that's going to constrain us down a bit as well. Now, your usual go-to for that is going to be web front ends, which is fantastic, and you can use Electron and things like that. I did strongly consider that, but the fact that Web Audio Framework doesn't do what we need it to do, it feels like it's going to be another layer and another level of complexity. So, you know, I've had a bit of experimentation. You can go look on my GitHub right now, and you'll see that Qt, or Qt, however you want to pronounce it, covers the multimedia side and it covers the GUI side quite well, and on Python. I did have an experiment with Kivy. It didn't quite do all the things we needed to, and there's some complications installing it on Windows. So ended up on Qt as our go-to platform. It just simplifies things down, and it means that we're not bringing in several different libraries to manage in several different ways. So in terms of looking at this right-hand side, you can see the components that we're going to be looking for. Some sort of SQL server, and I'm hoping we can get a managed option for a sensible price. Probably leaning towards Postgres because, you know, Python and Django. Giving a few secrets away here, but that's the path we're going to be going down. And that's going to be presenting our web server layer. There's going to be some sort of S3 compatible storage. I'll put backups on it as well, but that will be where we're storing the audio files in the main case. Now, for performance reasons, we will have to cache them locally, but that's our long-term store. And there'll be some sort of web server layered to present that, and we're going to have some authentication in as well. So that's going to be one of the first things we touch on, is how we tie these things together and present authentication, so that, you know, when you log into the desktop application, it logs you into all the components you need in a modern and secure fashion, and the desktop app will be the presentation layer. Like I say, I've considered going down the web path, and I know React quite well. Done a bit of Angular in the past, and jQuery if you want to go far enough back as well. But the web audio framework, from my experimentation and what I've looked into it, just doesn't tick enough boxes for what we need to do here. So that's the route we're going to go down. As you can see, there is a lot to come, and we're only just starting this journey, but it is a joint journey. You can give me feedback and you can get involved. You can state your comments down below and tell me how I'm rubbish, and you think my design's horrible, and you think I'm wasting my time, or maybe you can suggest, you know, ways of improving things. I'm here to learn as well. It's not just a one-way thing, it's a two-way learning thing. Or if you want to get really brave, I'll be doing all this on GitHub as well. So if you go and have a look at Steel GDPR GitHub, there is an all-day DJ repository there, and you can get involved in that if you really want to. It's the brave option. I'd love your help, but you don't have to do it at that level. You can do your own thing copying along as well. And I feel really dirty saying this, because it's so promotional, so commercial, but it's the way of the internet, and I have to ask you to hit that subscribe button and ding that bell. Yeah, I felt as dirty as you did saying that. But please do that, because that's what means that you're not going to miss a stage on this journey, and you don't want to miss a thing. Now, I would hand over to Aerosmith at this point, but, you know, copyright police, so until then, catch you next time.